So today we're here with
Brit Miller in the great city of Decatur, Illinois, by the way.
Brit. Where did you go to high school at, and what year did you graduate?
I'm a graduate of Eisenhower High School. I think I graduated in 2005. It's been a while, and three-sport athlete there, so it was a ton of fun.
What sports did you play in high school?
I actually started football always. Started varsity since I was a freshman. And then played some basketball all 4 years. Never was a wrestler. Couldn't make the singlet look good. And then played baseball my freshman year, and ended up being a 4-event athlete and track for state the next 3 years. So a ton of fun.
Talk about your high school sports career from freshman through senior.
Oh man. Well, I'll tell you this. Like, one of the speeches that I give and those sorts of things is always start hot, right? So we had what they called the black and white game. Our colors were black and white. We're the Panthers, and so it's freshman versus sophomore. They never really wanted to give me a lot of credit, until the pads started cracking, and so we play against the sophomore squad. First play of the whole scrimmage, the whole school's there. Band just got done playing, and a guy runs a little just dive kind of right at me, and it opened up nice. Nobody came up to block me, and I just stroked this fool and just knocked him out. He never came back to practice. So that's when they kind of knew it was time for Brit to play varsity.
Talk about your teammates and coaches.
Man, just friends forever. I mean, even though you go to college, you go to the NFL, your high school friends are always, the guys you remember the most, you went to war with, just that sort of thing kind of came up with. But a lot of great friends still. My buddy Miller Goodman, he's a heck of an athlete. I was one of the first guys to break the Division I barrier. But we had some other guys that really should have and could have if we were probably more of a highly recruited area. So
talk about some of the teams and players that you played against in high school.
Oh, man. A lot of D1 guys, actually. But, I don't know this kid's name, but the one kid I wanted to whip the most was a cat from normal community. And he was just good, and he was their quarterback. And so that was one guy I remember, but I was extremely happy when we beat them for sure. What
were your favorite fields in high school?
I really liked playing at Mattoon. I thought that was really cool down there. They had one of the first, press boxes where, people sat up in, and it just kind of a small town environment. We didn't get a lot of that. We played typically bigger schools, and I loved playing at Bloomington High School, but the best was still Alexander Field there at Eisenhower.
Talk about your stories in high school you like to share.
What road do you want to go down, man? It's there's a ton of them. I'm glad we were before the Facebook era. Let's put it that way. We had a lot of fun, and I had friends from all races and ethnicities and socioeconomic. So that's one thing I can say about Decatur is it kind of prepares you for everything that's out there.
Talk about the awards you accomplished in high school.
I never made All-State, so I think a lot of high-level athletes always think about things they didn't do as opposed to things they did accomplish. So, I relished in the fact that I was National Honor Society, looking back, always all-conference. The people that played me knew who I was, and so I can accept that as something that, was definitely worthwhile.
After high school, where'd you go to college?
Went to the University of Illinois.
Did you play football, of course, right?
Played a little football there. We were 2-9. I mean, it was rough go. But
who recruited you?
Actually, Ron Turner. So Ron Turner used to beat up on his kids pretty good, and so that's what gets you noticed. He'd always make me turn in my birth certificate, and then Zook actually took over. So I never played for Ron Turner, played for Ron Zook, and he told me, he's like, "Man, you're not going to be a quarterback for me. Are you sure you want to come here?" I was like, "I don't want to be a quarterback," and he's like, "Well, then you can go."
So what was the experience like playing at D1 school?
It's as advertised, there's just a ton of people, a ton of emotion. It takes everything you got to succeed. And then sometimes it takes everything you got and you still don't succeed. So, but when we got good, the experience was a lot better, going to the Rose Bowl, having some success, getting some national notoriety. That's what it's all about. That's why you put in the work. At
college, like I said, talk about your career and teammates and coaches.
Oh, man. Well, it started off rough. My first game, I played in every game my entire career there. Special teams for the first 5 games. I started my 6th game as a freshman. And you just take your lumps, man. Not a lot of starters, but had good friends. Kyle Hudson, who's now with the Indians organization. He's the outfield coach. He was a dual sport athlete. He was my roommate first year. And then I got in with Russ Weil, who played for the Packers, played for the Rams. Eric Block, who was a big-time recruit out of New Orleans. And then a buddy of ours, Bryson Whalen. And these are all linemen or fullbacks. And so those are guys I rolled with every day. But, I mean, there's so much talent that walks through the doors, especially at U of I at that time. I mean, they thought we were probably doing something a little illegal because it wasn't normal. Let's put it that way.
Talk about some of the teams and players that you played against.
I never liked Iowa, ever. Still don't. So Iowa fans out there, my bad. Not really. I don't like them. But Albert Young, he was a running back for them. And he's a stud, he's a tough guy to, go up against. Ryan Balaga, still in the NFL, having a pretty good career, and just, it's countless. Max Bernstein was the first big fullback I ever played against. And you talk about being sore after that game, it's tough. Teddy Ginn, Troy Smith, the Ohio State regimes, Terrell Pryor. So we got to see kind of all those athletes come through, compete against them. And, it's, like I said, they're as advertised, man. It takes everything you got.
Name some of the favorite fields you played in.
Collegiately, I don't know the names of every stadium, but Penn State was always great, right? Like we played in 2 whiteout night games there, just insane. When you got, and people think Ohio State's big, Penn State's bigger. It really is. It's not as on top of you, but it's 100,000 fans, and then you're sitting there before a game, and their fan section is not let in until about 10 minutes before the game. So it seems kind of tame. And then 10 minutes before the game, the floodgates open. They run from the top of this stadium all the way down to the bottom. And that's how they get their seats, It's that place was wild.
Add any stories you'd like to add during college as far as just anything you'd like to add? Talk a little about the Rose Bowl game.
Yeah, the Rose Bowl, great experience, from the beginning. Like, we got told we were going to the Rose Bowl. Zook's handing out roses to everybody. Far cry from where we were, a couple, just months before that, not knowing what kind of team we'd be. And then, just you go, you call your mom and dad, you call your aunts and uncles, let them know, hey, man, we're going to the Rose Bowl. We did it, And at that time, kids these days don't get, like, the Rose Bowl was the granddaddy of them all at that time. That was, it was such a big game. The pageantry out there is just crazy. And if you ever want to see, when fireworks go up and you got USC looking at you, that's where it's at. People pay every dollar they've ever made to have that feeling. And the game didn't work out the way we planned, but we made mistakes that we shouldn't have made. But I'll tell you what, when you got Snoop Dogg and Will Ferrell on the sideline, and we got Bill Murray on ours, and it's just everybody on your squad versus everybody on their squad, and it was just a cool deal.
Talk about some of the awards that you got in college.
A couple that I coveted the most were just being the team captain. That's voted on by the team. Coach don't have anything to do with it. And so just to have that respect in there, and the last couple of years of my career, and then being a Big Ten linebacker, all Big Ten first team. Going to the NFL and I played offense, I got to see all these guys that I was competing with stat wise. And just running them over and realizing they were just some busters, it's good. So
what teams did you get drafted by in the pro?
I didn't get drafted. I was actually 2 middle linebackers got taken that year, and that's it. Ray Maluga from USC, and then James Laurinaitis. It was more about outside backers, kind of what the agents were saying, and was my pedigree good enough? Yeah, but. And that's from NFL coaches, and that would say, hey, do you want to play offense or you want to play linebacker, your more natural position? But I end up getting picked up by the Carolina Panthers. I know, right? Get hit in the head for a living. There's some lapses in there. I got picked up by the Carolina Panthers. Great experience. Spent my whole summer out there. John Fox was a great coach. And then got let go right before OTAs. All 3 linebackers that we thought were hurt all came back. And end up being a blessing in disguise, because a lot of the guys that were going to be cut were cut on the first day of camp. And so they had to wait a whole 2 weeks to get to a team, basically. And I was already at the 49ers ready to go.
Talk about your time with the 49ers and the Rams.
Man, there's just not enough time, man. It's the 49ers was awesome, right? Because I got there and nobody knew I was a rookie. And so a lot of the crap that goes along with being a rookie, I didn't ever have to go through because they thought I was a little bit older, coming from a different team. So I kind of had a little bit of anonymity there. And but I mean, Tom Rathman. So I got moved to fullback. Tom Rathman is the most crazy coach probably to ever live. He's great. He's a 49er great, Nebraska great, and every single day he just cussed me out. Like Tom. Like, it really is not my fault that Frank Gore's not doing anything, but I was the young guy, and Coach Singletary being out there. I was out there in those days, and it was lawless country. I mean, you just got after it. He expected you to be the 85 Bears every time, and so it's always defensive oriented every practice. But you got to compete against some greats. I mean, like Takeo Spikes, Patrick Willis, Justin. Like, these guys are studs. And you find yourself lining up against them and, hopefully holding your weight every day.
Tell the story about the fullback start.
Right. So I was in my first preseason game with the 49ers. And they're like, hey, Brit, you're going to play linebacker in the third quarter. Probably get you in the special teams a little bit earlier. So I don't really warm up too hard. Like, I want to be loose. I'll get loose at the half and go out there. Everybody, you got to play your quarters and that kind of thing in the NFL in preseason. And so opening kickoff, the only fullback that was dressed broke his arm. His name was Zach Kesey, and I'm sitting here thinking, like, man, like, I can't wait to hit that fool. Like, I know I can beat this guy, but Zach's a good dude. And but he broke his arm doing a goofy spin move, like on a kickoff. I'm like, never. But so they're like, hey, we need a fullback. We're probably not going to use you. It's like, okay. Like, they're like, Miller, can you do it? I'm like, yeah, I'm getting loose and stuff on the sideline. First drive, we're playing the Denver Broncos. And they get all the way down to like our end zone, getting ready to score a touchdown, and they throw an interception. We run it all the way down to our 4-yard line and get caught, and they're like, Brit, you're in. And I'm like, what? And so I run out into the the huddle, and these guys don't even know me. I mean, like, I'm not on their side of the ball. So I'm looking in the huddle, I don't even know where to stand. And Alex Smith and Vernon Davis, Joe Staley, just all these super talented people, Frankie G. And he says, Jack left, power pass left. Jack left, power pass left. Ready? Everybody breaks. Like, I don't even know how to do it at that time. You don't know how to be in the break, And I tap on Alex Smith's shoulder, and I say, what do I do? He's trying to go to the line, call the dang play, and score. And he looks at me. He's like, run a flat. I'm not going to throw it to you. I'm like, all right. So I don't know snap count. Don't know nothing like that. I get in my stance. It's the worst stance ever. And I'm just looking at the football because at least I knew that. Like, don't move until the ball snapped. Just run a flat, get out of everybody's way, do the right thing. So snap goes off. I'm a little late coming out, run my flat. And Teddy Ginn's covered. Vernon Davis is double covered. No backside read here. So I'm wide open. Alex looks at me, looks back at Vernon, and then finally throws it to me because he's getting ready to get crushed. And I catch it behind me, and I close my eyes, and I just jump. I don't know if I'm in the end zone or not. I roll a couple times, just don't get touched. I open my eyes. I'm in the middle of the end zone. Get up, spike it. Vernon Davis picks me up. I play with his brother Vontae. I mean, really, that's the only connection I had on offense. And sure enough, I scored a touchdown, my first play ever. And then I scored another play. I scored on another play, 63-yarder. And it was jack right, power pass right. So I knew what I had to do was run a flat. They busted the coverage, scored, and, outran a couple safeties. They're like, this kid could play, and that was the opportunity I needed, and that's kind of the luck aspect of it all, too. I mean, you could be good enough, but if you're not lucky, you got some work ahead of you.
Talk about your NFL career in general, just ending on that note.
Yeah, I was a journeyman. I mean, I was a guy that was definitely in the 80 percentile. The 20% get all the glory, the fame, the dough. And then there's the rest of us that are, grinding every single day, have to practice more, have to do a little extra to be noticed. But everywhere I went, had a lot of love, which was good. And then, my last year as a Ram, I was a captain. And in the NFL, that's a huge deal. And it's just kind of hard to explain, but you only get 3 per team. So out of every team in the NFL, there's only 3 guys that are recognized as a captain. And, I had the C on my jersey, and that means a lot to me, being able to accomplish that. And through all the crap, through all the injuries, definitely proud of that.
At what age did you become interested in sports?
About 8 is when I started playing football. So my dad snuck me into my brother's games. So I wasn't even old enough to play. And I would end up starting middle linebacker, for the 4th through 6th grade team as an 8-year-old. So
Since you played, how has the game changed?
it's totally different. I mentioned earlier about being before the Facebook era. Well, in my opinion, we're in the offensive era of football. 2 years ago, watching the Chiefs versus who was it? It was a Monday night game, but it was Chiefs versus somebody else, and they both scored 50. I was like, it's a joke, because me really being a defensive guy at heart, I'm like, you got to play some defense. In the NFL, scoring 28, you should maybe be able to win the game. These guys both scored 50. But it's changed a lot, like they've taken the head out of the game, and we used to use that. I mean, that used to be a scare tactic. You can see my picture on Twitter where I'm just stroking Chase Daniels like in the head. Like that was to get those guys to act right. Like, hey, if you're going to play with the big boys, you're going to get hit. And now it's more offensive based, a lot more. I do agree with the health measures, but I also don't want to take every weapon out of the defense's hands that they've had, which is fear. So that's kind of out of the game. It's a little softer these days.
What advice would you give to today's youth about playing sports?
Play them all. Play every single sport you can, because there's no substitute for competition. I mean, at one point, I think I was so in tune and wanted to compete at all the times. I looked at somebody and they said something silly. I said, "Oh, I'm going to compete no matter what. I'm going to try to beat my grandma in checkers." And so it's like that's the kind of mindset that a lot of these guys at the time that they're playing have, because you got to compete all the time. And you can't do that by going and lifting weights by yourself or with 2 other people. Like, you got to be on the field. You got to have consequences. You got to have, adversity. And so all these young kids, hey, don't ever specialize. Go out and play everything you can. Compete against your neighbor. Compete against your grandma. I don't care. But you got to. That's the only chance you got.
What has sports done to change your life?
It just made me who I am. I mean, sports, that's the one common denominator throughout my entire life that's made me who I am. Whether it was me as a young man playing or now coaching, those kind of things hold me accountable. And they've helped me in my work life. I mean, yeah, it's nice to say, hey, I'm Brit Miller and I play in the NFL and I'm going to sell you something. But what's really cool is like to draw on those experiences. Like, I've been told no before. I've had failures. So, the day-to-day work related things, like, okay, man, I'm gonna come back tomorrow. I'm going to get it. So,
what is your current occupation?
I'm a senior sales executive for Bechtek, which is a family company. We actually are a Motorola reseller. So we take care of a lot of 911. We keep those wheels greased, make sure everybody has communication when it matters most. Do a lot of surveillance. So we're in schools, we're in manufacturing, and then we do a lot of just little things that come out of that industry. But we're busy every day.
Talk about your biggest role models.
Mine is always family. I mean, my dad, my grandfather, my other grandfather, uncles. So, just kind of staying at that theme. My family's been there with me every step of the way. My grandpa and brother went to London with me when we played the Patriots. All my uncles and my dad went to every single away game, really, when I was at the U of I. One of the reasons we came back to the Rams and why I stayed with the Rams is because people could come down and see us. I mean, I'm one of like 18 grandkids, and then my wife's one of 22, and we all live around here. I mean, birthday parties are the party, and so it's just, we're always together. And, my role model was the family and the fact that you just never want to disappoint them. You knew they were going to be on your butt. And it was always a humbling experience whenever you're the little guy in the family and everybody can kind of rough you up too. So
you were telling me a little bit ago about Jimmy Garoppolo, and you know him real well. What does it mean to know him and just he's former EIU quarterback and now he's a 49ers quarterback? That's a big deal.
Yeah, Jimmy's got a ton of success, and our paths have crossed a couple times, along with, oddly enough, Romo. Me and Romo got the same award in Baltimore, and our wives and us all went out to dinner. But Jimmy's success is warranted big time. And he's donated to the charity. And my wife and I is leading the Way Fund, which is where we donate to local athletics, make sure kids are fed, those sorts of things before and after games. And so Jimmy, his story is still going to be written. I mean, that having a 10-point lead in the Super Bowl, he's going to do that again. He's going to finish one off. I just think the Chiefs had too much going on. But from what I'm hearing and talking to that organization and everybody that knows Jimmy and all that. I think there's better things to come for him.
Is there anything else you'd like to add in closing?
I mean, no, man, nothing crazy.
So, Brit, you were telling me about you met some country music stars along the way. Tell me a little about that. And when did you meet them?
Well, most of them with the Rams, because Jeff Fisher was our coach. You know, he's a big guy. He's a big-time Nashville guy for a long time. And so Brantley Gilbert, Eric Church actually got to go to their concert at the same time they were touring. And so I surprised the guys and said, hey, you know, I'm going to take care of you. Let's go see Eric Church. And little did they know, we were in his, you know, dressing room. And so it was great. Like, he's a pretty athletic dude. Brantley Gilbert's about, you know, 5'8". He was on first, so we didn't really hang out with him too much. But like, Eric Church is as advertised. You know, he's a wild man, Jack Daniel drinker kind of guy. And so I'm surprised he was able to make it through that concert, to tell you the truth. But has a great arm, you know, and really enjoyed having the gloves and the, you know, whenever you're able to give guys like that something they can't do, it's a rarity. You know, all singers want to be athletes, and all athletes think they're singers, you know. So it's always a good time to get together those guys. And Jason Aldean, multiple times, almost had to put Luke Bryan in a chokehold for hitting on the wife. You know, just little things like that. But a lot of great stories. And St. Louis is a big enough town, but a small enough town. So it was good to play there and, you know, be involved with all that as they were coming in town and wanting to come to our practices and those sorts of things. And Nelly was always there too. I mean, Nelly might as well have just been on the team. We should have just put him under contract. But like I said, it's just one of those towns where, you know, everybody kind of got along and everybody knew everybody. So I really enjoyed my time there.
That's really interesting, Brit. I appreciate your time.
Hey, no problem.